Children's Chapel. My name is Amanda Esco, and I am the director of the Religious Education Program for the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. Welcome today. I'm really glad you're here with us. Today in Children's Chapel, we're going to share our joys and concerns. We're going to listen to our UU of the week, and we're going to learn a little bit about science. So get ready. The first thing we're going to do, though, is light our chalice. Symbol of light, symbol of knowledge, symbol of warmth, symbol of freedom. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. Here we gather to celebrate hope and the infinite possibilities of love. Now, this week in religious education, we have been talking about rest. It's our last week for religious education programming. So we've been talking about what we can do to rest in our world. Rest is a spiritual practice. Rest is an important thing for us to learn and to create within our homes and for ourselves. How have you rested this week? Some of the ideas that we've been talking about have been being outside, reading, creating art. Doing these things rest and recharges us. So, how did you rest this week? What practices did you put in place as a family to help you build these spiritual practices daily? I can't wait to hear about it. Remember, you can always go to our Facebook group and share with the rest of us how you're practicing spirituality in your homes, including things like how you're resting. I want to start today with joys and concerns. So, joys and concerns is a weekly feature that we do where we talk about what's going well, maybe something we need help with or we need to work on. If we were in Little Chapel at First Church, we would be sitting in a great big circle talking about these, but we're not. We are separated physically. That does not mean, however, we still can't share. So I want you to share your joys and concerns with whoever is with you, be it a spouse, a parent, a sibling, an animal, or, a stuffy, whoever's with you. Share your joys and concerns. I'll start with mine. A joy I had this week was a friend's birthday, and we went to surprise him social distance style or physical distance style in his backyard. And while it was different, we haven't done those kind of birthday parties before, it was still so good to be in community with others, even if we were 6 feet apart. A concern that I have right now is the rising rates of the virus in our community. So that's reminding all of us, it's our responsibility to be wearing our mask, maintaining our social distance, and doing safe practices. So I want you to make sure as you're going through your week that you're doing those things. We are not out of the woods yet with this, friends. And the more we do these things, the faster we will get there. So keep social distancing, keep physical distancing, not social distancing. What's going well? What do you need help with? Share your joys and concerns with those around you right now. I'll be right here when you come back. Thank you for sharing your joys and concerns with those around you. They love you and they want to hear what's in your heart. So keep sharing. Today, for our UU of the week, Lissa is going to tell us about a musician who spoke a lot about social justice issues and being a Unitarian in the world. Thank you, Lissa.
A time of love, a time of hate, a time of peace. I swear it's not too late to everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven.
I'm Lissa Lander, the Religious Education Assistant at the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. And our UU of the week is singer-songwriter Pete Seeger. Pete Seeger wrote some of American folk music's most iconic songs, and he used his music to teach and to protest. He sang for the labor movement in the 40s and 50s to help people who wanted to be treated more fairly and to be safer at work. He sang for the civil rights movement, which asked for all people, regardless of the color of their skin, to be treated equally. Seeger, in fact, helped popularize the spiritual "We Shall Overcome" so much that it became the anthem of the civil rights movement. He sang for an end to the Vietnam War in the 60s and also for environmental and international human rights from the 70s up until his death in 2014. Pete Seeger found the most success as a songwriter. Many of his songs were then recorded and popularized by other artists, which only helped spread his messages of peace and conservation. Songs like "Turn, Turn, Turn," "Where Have All the Flowers Gone," and "If I Had a Hammer" have become protest anthems, or songs that everyone knows and that also have a good message. These are all songs that I loved as a child, and I can vividly remember my mom singing them. At a lay-led service at First Church a few years ago, I was floored when I learned that Pete Seeger actually wrote all of those songs. They're sung by other people normally, so I didn't know. Then I learned that he was also a Unitarian, and the world and my path through it made a little more sense. Seeger said, "I feel most spiritual when I'm out in the woods. I feel part of nature, or looking up at the stars. I used to say I was an atheist. Now I say it's all according to your definition of God. According to my definition of God, I'm not an atheist because I think God is everything. Whenever I open my eyes, I'm looking at God. Whenever I'm listening to something, I'm listening to God." Pete Seeger's mother was a Unitarian. He first became involved with his church in New York because they offered him rehearsal space in their building, but he became more and more active in the UU community. Our own Reverend Tom has told stories from the past about Seeger singing with the children who were backstage at GA, or the General Assembly. GA is a great big meeting where members and leaders of the Unitarian Universalist churches meet each year to talk about our faith and how we can make it better. It's happening right now. We are learning about how we as a group can help our country in this challenging moment. Spoiler alert, one of the answers is to vote and to make it easier for all of our neighbors to vote as well. If you have an adult nearby, tell them to check out UU the Vote and learn how to make phone calls and send postcards to ensure that everyone's right to vote is not suppressed this year. But back to Pete Seeger and the children. Towards the end of his life, he said in an interview with the New Republic that I highly recommend everyone go read because it's great. Seeger said, "When I look back now, I feel that for too much of my life I preached to the converted. Better to preach to people who are not yet oriented one way or another, like very young people." This week, we are exploring the idea of rest and building our potential energy. We are getting ready for our summer break and are looking forward to planning a new church year. I want to say thank you to the parents who have showed up for religious education this year, and especially in our quarantine. Thank you for bringing your very young people to church, and thank you for allowing me and Amanda to teach them and to learn from them.
Thanks, Lissa. Pete Seeger was an amazing Unitarian Universalist. My favorite song of his is "God's Counting on Me, God's Counting on You." And there's a lyric from this song that always sticks with me. "What we do now, you and me, will affect eternity. God's counting on me, God's counting on you. Hoping we'll all pull through, hoping we'll all pull through, hoping we'll all pull through, me and you." We talk a lot in Children's Chapel about this. We don't live in a bubble. Our actions affect others. Our 7 principles remind us that we are connected in this great big world together. Pete Seeger put it to song. Thank you, Pete, for sharing your gifts. Who's ready for our Wonder Box? Ooh, what do you think's in here today? Ah, it's a ball with a stick on it. Now, I want to thank my friend Tim Atkins, a DRE, all the way across the country in Maryland, for today's science and spirituality lesson. Now, did you just hear what I said? I said science! Who here loves science? Let's give a big cheer for science. Hip, hip, hooray! One of the most important sources of Unitarian Universalism. I love science too, but it's not always easy to learn. For some people, the most difficult science to study is physics. Physics is the study of matter and energy, and some physicists study different kinds of energy. The 2 most common types of energy that I'm going to talk about today are potential and kinetic energy. So let me start by asking if you know what kinetic energy is. What do you think? What's kinetic energy? If you said kinetic energy is the energy of movement, you would be right. Examples of kinetic energy would be throwing a ball, a skier going down a ski hill, an asteroid falling towards Earth. Kinetic energy happens when an object is in motion. So what then is potential energy? Let's think about the word potential. It means that something hasn't happened yet, but could happen. Potential energy is the energy that's stored up, able to be used for things like movement. So now that we've talked about these 2 important kinds of energy, there's one big rule about energy that I'm going to talk with you about. And it's huge. Are you ready? Energy is never created nor destroyed. Let me say that again. Energy is never created nor destroyed. It's one of the most important principles of physics. In fact, it's a law. It's called the first law of thermodynamics. To me, it's one of the most spiritually meaningful rules of science. In short, this law means that energy never goes away. It just changes form. So I want to know how energy can change from potential to kinetic. Let's look at this item from our Wonder Box. This is called a pendulum. A pendulum is a weight that's hanging on a string. So, what do you think happens when I lift this ball about 1/3 of the way up? What do you think? Let's see. It starts swinging back and forth. Now, what happens if I raise this ball even higher? Oh, it's almost even to the top of the screen. What do you think what's going to happen? Whoa! That is so fun. Look, it's actually moving even faster when I got all the way to the bottom of the arc. Not the thing, the arc. The higher I raise up that ball, the faster it goes. That's because when I raise the ball up, I'm giving it more and more potential energy. All of the potential energy changes to kinetic because energy is never created nor destroyed. Now, what happens if I don't put any potential energy in it at all? Does it move? Okay, let's see. Okay, I've got my ball. It's just here. Is it swinging back and forth? It's spinning a little bit, but it's mostly just standing still. Without that potential energy, there's no way for it to move. We are inspired in our spiritual life by science and what we learn about science. And this is another one of those lessons. The first lesson, we all have potential. We all have potential to change who we are and what we believe and what we do. because that potential energy inside us can change into kinetic energy and move us in all sorts of different ways. I want us to focus more on this second lesson though. In order for us to move, we need to charge up our potential energy. We have to recharge our batteries in order for them to work. We have to add more logs to the fire for it to grow. We have to lift that ball up higher for it to swing back and forth. We have to expand our amount of potential energy to change the world, because once we run out of potential energy, we can't stop moving. We will stop moving. We burn out. We give up. One of our most important tasks is to make sure we are constantly recharging our potential energy so we don't run out or run low. Sometimes that might mean we might not physically move as fast as we would want to. And that's okay. If we run out of potential energy, we'd stop completely. That would be worse. We all have different ways that we can recharge our potential energy. Some people pray. Some people meditate. Some people watch a lot of Netflix. Some people make art. Some people go fly fishing. Some people that find that being with their friends helps them recharge their energy. This year, this summer, I'm spending a lot of time outside of my garden, resting, recharging, growing. I know I need a break, and I am sure all of you do too. However you do it this summer, if we want to keep moving forward, we also have to take the time to recharge our potential energy. This week, as we move into our summer programming here at First Church, I want you to spend a little extra time doing something that you know will recharge your potential, however that may be. Thank you all for a wonderful year in religious education. We're going to keep producing Children's Chapel weekly, but until next time, we're going to heart out.